So we're just going to go ahead and get started. And really, so first, let me introduce myself. My name is Raquel Wilson. I am the Youth Voice Program Manager here at Foster and Media Connections. And essentially, Foster and Media Connections is a newsprint organization that is dedicated to publishing stories that bring awareness and also hold people accountable as it relates to the child welfare system. We have three programs: the imprint, which is the main publication that sources stories from former and current foster youth, those who have been impacted by by the child welfare system, and those who also advocate or in the position to help change policies. That includes lawyers, etc. With our other sister program at Fostering Families Today, they mainly focus on and source stories from foster parents and legal guardians and allow foster youth to share stories. We recently, last Thursday, actually hosted a webinar that was dedicated to foster youth coming together to tell foster parents, how they could have made their transition a little bit better and things that they can do that could make their parenting, that can enhance their parenting as it relates to foster care. And so the Youth Voice program, we in particular focus on stories that affect current and former foster youth, those who have been impacted by juvenile justice, and those who have been impacted by homelessness. We have some awesome contributor roles that allow some one-on-one mentorship through journalism training, where we pay current and former foster youth who are in a higher education or pursuing a trade school education or a vocational college education. And we pay them to write article stories for us that literally helps, brings awareness to issues that impact us. And with me leading the program as a former foster youth, I have dedicated myself to this work, just in particular because I feel like that there are stories and things that are not talked about or not spoken about across the child welfare system. And I think that needs to change. And so I like to put together events like this, whereas the Safe Circle, it's not as serious as a webinar. It's more so laid back. So we're going to welcome August. We're going to welcome you, Lauren. We're going to welcome you, Sylvia, to join in on the conversation. And basically, I just kind of wanted to ask you guys some questions as it relates to George Floyd, excuse me, and Ma'Khia Bryant. And that's kind of what the focus of this Safe Circle is, to pay homage and honor them and their untimely death. And so this Safe Circle basically will reflect on the verdict of George Floyd, as mentioned before. And I kind of want to go into some exploring details surrounding her death, because Ma'Khia Bryant was a former, actually a current foster youth. She actually was living in a foster home that was kind of styled like a group home. Atmosphere was very group home-ish, and she essentially lost her life. And so I wanted to invite you guys on as speakers to start the question and to kick the question off with, whether we think, foster youth are actually protected. And this question really hits home for me because I've had experiences in foster homes and in group homes, whereas, you do see residents fighting, you do see residents getting into it with the staff. You do see staff members telling residents, discouraging and just giving out verbiage that, is unworthy to their empowerment and their self-development. And so I want to kick this conversation off with, with that first question. Do you guys really truly believe that foster youth are protected? And before we do get started, I do want to let you guys know that this is safe. This is a safe circle. And so with that being said, this is a safe space. Everybody is free to speak. We just ask that you be respectful, that you allow people to finish their thoughts and their ideas. And let's just have a grown-up conversation. And hopefully we could bring some awareness to a situation that could potentially help advocate for foster youth, and can potentially help keep someone from dying in the same manner as Ma'Khia Bryant did. And so, yes, are foster youth actually protected? August, did you want to kick the conversation off? I see that you were unmuted.
Sure.
Yes, hi. Wait, so
Hi.
is your name August? I love month names. My daughter's name is June.
Okay.
And so, yes. Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning. First of all, thank you for doing this. I guess the first thing I want to do is answer the question, and that's probably no. I know that this kind of started with a call to the police for help. And that's been something that we've been talking a lot about in our community, is that, you know, when our families who are involved in the dependency system, sometimes we need to create safety plans. And part of that safety plan is, well, who are the people you can call if there's an issue? And if the answer to that question, if one of those people is not the police, then we think, oh, well, you're not, you know, for the parent or the guardian or whoever the adult is in that situation, that you're not being protective. If the police are not on that list of people you call when there's an issue that gets out of hand, then you're not being protective. But the flip side of that is, okay, well, if we do call the police, well, what happens? And you have all these instances of, you know, the police not really being prepared to handle whatever that situation is, misreading the situation, using excessive force. And so then, you know, is it right to include the police as part of that safety plan when they're not prepared to handle a situation like that? We need to rethink that. So in a situation where we're relying on the police to de-escalate a situation, especially with foster youth, like, I'm not sure that was ever conveyed to them. You know, I don't know about the details of the situation, but you would hope that, you know, the people that we're asking to be involved in those really heightened situations are aware that these are kids that have a lot of trauma, and it's trauma on trauma. So having the police show up in a situation like that, you know, it's traumatizing for them, and for them to not be able to de-escalate that situation in a way that, not that there shouldn't be any consequences for whatever happened, but in a way where these children walk away alive, you know, that's an issue. So in that instance, are foster youth protected? No.
Yes, thank you so much for coming through with the preaching. Yes, Lord, yes. I totally and wholeheartedly agree with everything that you say, that you said. My experiences with being in group homes were almost kind of similar to how Ma'Khia Bryant's like how she kind of felt as it relates to calling the police. And the thing is that I feel like that when you do call the police, that automatically, if you even do say that you are a former, or that you are in foster care, or that is a group home, there's just a stigma that automatically goes over their head. I feel like all the encounters that I had with police officers when I were in foster care, they instantly identified me as a troubled youth when it wasn't even that. And that was nearly not the case. And so I really agree with what you said, and appreciate it and value it. And I want to open up the floor for Sylvia or Lauren to chime in as well, if you would like to, as it relates to the question, are foster youth really protected? And even much so, if you have an experience that you can share, as it relates to this story too, I think it would be really, really good to bring awareness to some of the stories with actual lived experience that we can share. So Sylvia, Lauren, did you guys want to chime in?
This is Lauren. I don't know that I have anything that incredibly worthwhile to add, but I mean I agree with a lot of what August was saying. You know, if anything, this event shows that foster youth aren't protected, especially not by the police. Um, and I live in Columbus, so you know, it just there aren't words, you know, to see this over and over again with youth and then to see it happen so close to home. And I, you know, work with foster youth to see it happen to, uh, you know, this young woman. Yeah, it's just horrible.
Yeah, it is. And it's really crazy too to know that I understand, and they talk a lot about the knife situation and the fact that she was going to, stab, presume look like she was going to allegedly stab the other young lady. But to me, I just kind of feel like if she called the police, at what point was she defending herself? And I don't agree with her necessarily pulling a knife out to stab someone, but it was reported that for 3 days that these individuals came to the house to jump her. And so that's more than one. It was just her and her boyfriend. And so to me, I feel like, that, with her calling the foster mom and the foster mom just nonchalantly being like at work, and just, it's just so troubling. And to hear that you're actually in Ohio, that you work with foster youth, I know that that is definitely a vulnerable and sensitive subject to speak about. And it's very emotional, to think that all of the times that I had like, fights, like I feel like I did fight a lot when I was in foster care. Um, and when I think about the times that I have fights and how those very much so could have been de-escalated, because but the social work, I mean, not the social workers, the group home staff, didn't care to, do their job. It's just really unfortunate. It's just very unfortunate. And so the next question, which is really, really good, that segues into this, as we're talking about like our experiences in placement, our experiences in group homes. Um, how do you guys think that we can use her death to basically bring awareness to the malpractice that's happening within placements, within group homes, and how some of these facilities and foster parents need to be vetted a little bit more, or trained even a little bit more better, so that they can assess and better handle these situations in a different manner.
I'll speak up on this one.
Thank
So
you and welcome.
thank you. Um, I think in terms of having more of a discussion and having the for example, law enforcement, social workers, group home staff, it's almost like having a session like this where they can hear from foster youth as well, in terms of, like you said, that there were a lot of instances where you needed just maybe that situation to be de-escalated, you know, something to maybe hit more home in terms of what exactly it is that you were needing at that point. I know one of the other participants mentioned, trauma. A lot of the reactions that foster youth may have, when they're angry, upset, if there's fights or anything. I mean, it has to do with experiences that have happened to them, reactions, triggers. So I think getting a perspective from the youth and training the law enforcement, getting them to have a little bit more insight in terms of what exactly it is that foster youth need from them, in terms of going back to that first question, feeling protected.
I think that going off of what you were saying, Sylvia, I think that it would be interesting to see all of the different parties that were involved, not just those specific parties, but in general, police, group home staff, foster parents, use this almost as like a case study where they could look at it and say, okay, what could everybody have done differently to change this outcome? Because regardless of what she was doing at the moment that she died, for this to have happened, all of the adults around her had to have failed her like repeatedly for it to have led to this outcome. So, everybody can look at this and say, like, what changes can be made for this to have ended differently.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Lauren. Thank you so much, Sylvia. You hit the nail right on the coffin. What a way to drive it home. I really, really appreciate both of you guys sharing. August, I definitely want to welcome you to share your thoughts on this question if you like. But Lauren, thank you. Thank you so much, Sylvia. You guys really, really hit it home. And, one of my final thoughts is, I mean, not really a final thought, but like, it's really, really imperative that that we use this story. And I love the fact that you mentioned using it as a case study. I think that would definitely be ideal to have in some of these trainings that foster parents have to go to, that child advocates have to go through too, because you are right. Everyone around her that was an adult did fail her. And for it to have been a 3-day event that led up to, the final untimely, of her death. It's just so unfortunate that, there wasn't any intervention or preventive skills or a plan put into place to better protect her. And it says a lot about the system as a whole, because I very, very much so could have been her. I've had the police come to group homes. I've had them pull guns out on us at the group homes, on all of us, which are the residents, based on, indirect communication from the staff members. And so it's just very, very unfortunate. And I think the thing is that, I say a lot of stuff about social workers and how, their caseload is overwhelming. And that says the same thing for the system as a whole. I think that because there's so many foster youth in the system, and 9 times out of 10, it's not really about, restoring the family back together. I think that it has a lot to do with money, and the lack of vetting of foster parents and of these facilities that house these group home needed youth, and they're not giving them a stable environment to flourish, to develop. And it's just really, really unfortunate. So, I wanted to ask you guys, if there was one thing, of course, that you could take away. There's a lot of things that we can take away from her death. What would be one thing that you would like to, say to, anyone that was listening that, could, create a policy or, invite, a movement for change as it relates to her death, that could bring awareness to the situation and how foster youth are handled as it relates to the police and in placement?
I guess I would start with, if I could have anything I wanted, it would be for the focus to be, as you said, back on reunification. We shouldn't have kids in group homes. They should be with their families, or, back with their parents or with a relative. that's not to say that we won't have group homes ever. We can reduce the amount of group homes, obviously, but there will be some instances where there are young people and who need to be in group homes. And I think the number one thing is that this should not have happened. As you mentioned, there were 3 days leading up to this where somebody could have intervened. Maybe she should not have continued to be in that placement and she should have been moved. So there were a lot of points where somebody could have intervened to where this young lady would have walked away with her life. Like I said, not with, she had a knife, sure. And there needs to be a consequence for that, but she should have never been in a position where she needed to have a knife, first of all. And second, she should not have had to die at the hands of the police. So I think that's where it would start with that.
Yeah, and the knife is crazy because if it is a group home setting, the foster mom is going to be in a lot of trouble, because that's one thing that I know for a fact is that knives, anything that you can use as a weapon, is supposed to be put away. Like they barely even let me keep my tennis shoestrings when I was in group home placements. And so I know for a fact that knives are not supposed to be in reach of any youth that is in care. And so it's just crazy to even know that she even had access to the knife, and that they're using that as a justification for her being shot, when there's tasers, when there's, all of these other things. And to me, I feel like that people have committed, acts of violence in the sense of, selfless defense. And it's unfortunate that she felt that she needed to protect herself so overwhelmingly that she grabbed a knife. But I still don't think that constitutes for a reason for her to have been killed and murdered, basically. And so, yes, Sylvia and Lauren, did you guys want to add in as it relates to that last question? All right. So the final question that I have for you guys, and this was a wonderful conversation, and I really, 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 really appreciate it. So I want to make this clear that it's not foster care. Foster care, foster care as a whole is not to blame for Ma'Khia Bryant's death. There are a lot of people. There are a lot of institutions that are at fault, mainly the police department. I felt like that the person that had that gun that shot her, that officer, he definitely, I think that he definitely reacted way too swiftly and in a manner that was aggressive and just uncalled for. I think that there were other ways or tactics that methods that he could have used to prevent her from harming herself or anyone else. And they train you to do that. And so, it's just really unfortunate. But I do want to make it clear that, foster care is not in totality to blame for Ma'Khia Bryant's death. And there is a stigma about foster youth and them being at risk. And maybe that played into the police and their thought process when they arrived on scene and, not only identified her as a Black youth, but a Black foster youth. And so it kind of seems as it appears that she has had two targets against her, or two strikes against her. And so I want to just open up the floor for any final thoughts that you guys may have. I don't want to keep you guys for too long. This definitely was a great conversation. Is there any final thoughts that you may have, Lauren, Sylvia, August, that you would like to share that, basically can highlight and start a movement or a conversation, or just as long as people are talking about it, I think that it's bringing awareness. Events like this help bring awareness to it. We have a writing opportunity coming up too as well that we'll drop in the chat for those who are in higher ed or former or current foster youth, those that have been impacted by juvenile justice homelessness. $250 to write about these same questions as in an op-ed, and then share their experiences about dealing with the police. And we'll put that information in the chat. But yes, I wanted to open up the floor for any final thoughts that you guys may have or wanted to add on.
I just wanted to thank you for hosting this. I think that, definitely we need to listen to our foster youth, and I think we need to hear more and be able to understand experiences, be able to get perspectives. I think training our foster parents in terms of being able to work with foster youth. I know that in terms of agencies, there is a lot of training that, but I think these are real life experiences that, having panels or having opportunities where we can actually hear about what the youth need. I think that's more valuable.
I'm over here really talking on mute. I'm sorry, but I really appreciate you for joining us today. Lauren, August, I definitely do not want to go off and end it without allowing you guys to have a final thought. So if you do want to speak now or forever hold your peace.
I just want to say thank you. And just to echo what Sylvia said, that, I'm an attorney for foster youth, and it's really, really important for us to hear directly from the people that the system impacts at every level of their lives, and to tell us what needs to change, instead of it being directives from us. Like we need to hear from the people who it directly impacts, what's going to be best for them. So I'm happy to have the opportunity to do this, and I'd like to, continue to have people speak truth to power. So, and I hope that through that'll create the change that we need.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
I would just say thank you as well. Final thoughts. I think it was August said, that this didn't have to happen. And so I would just like to, see more people recognize that this was preventable, and, it's our responsibility to do better by these kids. But yeah, everything I've attended from Fostering Media Connections has been like some of the best virtual trainings I've been in, since the beginning of the pandemic. I found it really, really helpful to get perspective from folks who have firsthand experience with the system. So thank you.
That just made me really feel really, really good, and for real, because I actually was hired right before the start of the pandemic last year. And when I came in, there wasn't anyone who had actually lived in foster care and had that lived experience that worked for the organization. Either like someone's parent was in foster care or was a foster parent, but like no one with lived experience. So when I came on in this role, there wasn't webinars or safe circles like this, and I really fought for it, because I think that being able to put people in a space where I could be able to connect people with individuals all across the United States or just internationally, wherever they are, and we can have a conversation, an open conversation that can spark change. I think that is very, very needed. And so just to hear you say that you have experience, have been to our virtual events, and you value them, it makes me feel really, really good. So thank you guys so much. We are hosting another event next Thursday. It's going to be for the topic is going to be related to financial literacy and foster youth. We're going to be diving into money management and just all the things that have to do with foster youth, being better prepared, for the real world, and not just that IOP class that they give you, that last week before they kick you out the system. and send you on your way. And so I'll be reaching out to all of you guys. I definitely want to keep in touch. Definitely will be sharing with you all our upcoming events. If you have or know any current or former foster youth, please send them my way. We have a lot of mentorship opportunities, a lot of writing opportunities that are available for stipends. Most of our writing opportunities are worth $250 stipends, and I try to get as many foster youth as I can get paid because I'm a former foster youth and we need some money. So just again, thank you guys again for being here. I really, really appreciate it. Please come to our next events and we'll see you soon.